Oh hey, I'm glad you're here. As a kid who grew up in his dad's video store, one could say that maybe it was always in the cards for me that I would be a massive indoor kid. While others were, let's go play outside, I was like, bugs are annoying, the sun's too hot. Besides, look at all the wonders on the TV screen inside. And there, in the wonderful darkness, tiny Dirk would sit, sweet tarts in hand, his face bathed in the glow of cathode ray. You see, I was hyper aware of my surroundings as a kid, very nervous, and a texture kid when it came to food, so uncertainties of even sleepovers at friends' houses would be pretty stress inducing. So, no, I never made it to summer camp. Also, group activities like singing around a campfire would make me want to jump into the fire. I also wasn't a sports kid, I'm not competitive, so relay races are a living nightmare. Luckily for me, the video store could transport me to camp. I could, from the comfort of my controlled environment, go with Angela to Camp Arawak. I could go to Camp Crystal Lake with Chris Higgins, or Camp White Pine with Tripper. For this episode, I wanted the perfect guide, and I found him on Twitter. I have always appreciated this guest's posts and genuinely positive vibe. When I found out they were a camp counselor, I was over the moon to do this episode, so let's get right to it. The film is Wet Hot American Summer, the guest is a camp counselor, and this is VH-Us. Hello, and welcome to VH-Us, the podcast where each episode is about a film and the guest has the profession or experience portrayed in the film. I'm your host, Dirk Marshall, and if you'd like to rate or review the show, it'd be greatly appreciated. Also, reach out on Instagram and Twitter at VHUS_podcast. My guest for this episode is Erick Lorinc, who's a camp counselor. Thank you for being here.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
You are Erick Lorinc on Twitter. That's Lorinc. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, perfect. Now, how many years have you been a camp counselor?
2015 to now.
Okay.
Is it 7? 8? 7. 7.
7. Perfect.
It's been 8 summers, including this one.
Oh, really?
Over 7 years.
Wow. And at the same camp?
Yes.
Okay, great. The film that brings us together is Wet Hot American Summer from 2001. The synopsis is, set on the last day of camp in the hot summer of 1981, a group of counselors try to complete their unfinished business before the day ends. At the time of this recording, it's not hard to find, but I gotta recommend people rent it at your local video store like Movie Madness right here in Portland, Oregon. Some of the people involved, we got the director, David Wayne, who people know from The State and Stella. He also directed Wonderlust, They Came Together, and Role Models. The film stars, and I'll just rattle them off really quickly because there's so many people in this cast. Michael Ian Black, Michael Showalter, Janine Garofalo, Christopher Maloney, David Hyde Pierce, Bradley Cooper, and it goes on and on and on. First, what's your history, Erick, with this movie?
I found it in high school. There was a YouTube compilation of best insults, and one of them was Paul Rudd telling Elizabeth Banks, "You taste like a burger.
Yeah.
I don't like you anymore." And I wanted to watch whatever that was immediately, and I looked it up and fell in love with it. And I watched it 3 times that first day.
Whoa.
Because I loved it so much. And then I show it to everybody, and I watch it all the time. I have a long history now with it.
That's great. It was playing in a small select theater. This was the year I lived in Seattle, and so I lived on Capitol Hill, and I just walked past this place, and it was playing, and I thought, well, I'll go see that. I think I saw David Wayne's name, maybe Michael Showalter's, but I knew The State. And Stella wasn't out yet, I don't think. So I was like, I gotta go see this movie. So I watched it by myself. I had so much fun. And then probably a year or 2 went by where I would tell people about things that happened in the movie. We have quite a task because it's a difficult movie to talk about when you don't have 9 hours because there's so many jokes and visual cues and layers to things and so much I just love about it. So we'll see how in-depth we can actually get. But I also really, really love this movie. So let's press play on Wet Hot American Summer. We start with our first taste of the awesome soundtrack by Craig Wedren and Theodore Shapiro as we see the counselors partying by a campfire. This is pre-kid, it feels like, but maybe it's just the night before the last day. I'm not sure. But is this a thing in your experiences? The counselors get to bond before the kids?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's usually 2 weeks of staff training before the kids even show up.
Oh, that makes sense.
There's so much you have to be able to harness kids and teach them how to canoe and all that stuff. You need 2 weeks of training. Our camp was very much a dry camp, though, so
Okay.
we were never getting like drunk and
Right.
having parties. We would have a weekend off every now and then. We would go to somebody's place,
Okay.
like a little get together.
Nice, nice. Our first title card says it's 5:57 a.m. on the last day of camp, and we see a bunch of teens all making out in the girls' bunk. Is sneaking out rampant in the camps?
I wouldn't say rampant, and we only have like at most 60-ish kids at our camp.
Okay.
Which 60 feels like a big number, but I'm watching 7 boys, and I can make sure they're not sneaking off. There definitely were kids who would couple up, and there have been a couple kids who've been caught not being camp appropriate.
Okay, good. Nice wording.
Yeah, it wasn't a major element of camp usually.
Sure. I wasn't a camp kid. I went to an outdoor school, which was in middle school. It was like a 2-night stay, I think, or something. And our friend's dad was the person that was in our cabin. So it didn't feel that. And I knew all the other kids in my cabin. So I was fine for that time, but I did get in trouble a few times for sure. We next get Janine and the other counselor having coffee, watching all the kids run back and forth, and she's just nonchalantly being like, "You should have been in your bunks." I just love that scene. And then we get introduced to Paul Rudd, who's kissing Katie
Right.
while Cooper watches. And I just love Michael Showalter so much in this movie. He's kind of our in, where he's this outsider. He wants to be cool, but he's not cool.
Yeah.
You know, that pretty much sums up my teenage years. Ken Marino as Victor enters, and he's like the grossest in this movie. He's so just sweaty, and his wig he has is really amazing.
It's a great wig.
It's so good. And his shorts that are just so short and tight. Janine introduces herself to David Hyde Pierce, and this was probably the part where it really cements the tone of the humor for the movie, because she puts her hand out to shake his hand, and he hands her the spade that he's holding. and
Yeah.
And then there's like she breaks the handle off of it and hands it back to him, and he says thanks. It's the whole scene is just gorgeous.
The stock pottery breaking noise.
Yes.
4 times in the movie. That's a very good joke.
Oh, it's so funny, and I keep forgetting that it comes back so late in the movie, the breaking scene. We meet the cook Gene, played by Christopher Maloney, which most people know from CSI or one of those shows, Law and Order, I think it was. But this was him in a comedic role, and I didn't put it together that it was him until I had rewatched it after seeing him as a dramatic actor. And then I was like, oh my gosh.
What'd you say, shithead? I said, hey guys, what's your glitch, Gene?
Listen to me, you fucked up little cigarette smoking piece of shit. I was in the Vietnam War.
And then I watched the movie with the commentary, and they talk about how they had to keep refilming parts, and so that's why his beard keeps changing from a real beard to a fake beard so drastically.
I've never noticed he had a fake beard.
Yeah, there's scenes where
no.
it's a close-up, and it's very funny. They didn't try to hide it as much as they probably could have. It's very good. It's also interesting when you watch the movie to look for rain, because it rained constantly when they filmed this.
Do that.
Yeah, it's very fun. And they had to put boards down so the kids could run across the grass because it was just so muddy. David Hyde Pierce shows up to teach the kids indoor science, and I love the indoor kids. That was me as a child for sure.
My favorite Easter egg in the show was when they showed back up.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I got so excited, like unreasonably excited.
Yeah.
What it was. And that was a good scene too, where they all get killed by John Hamm.
Yeah. Anytime everyone comes back for something, I just love it, because it's like, come on, it's been so much time and we all want to see you. Like, even if you're retired from acting, just make a little walk on or something, you know?
Honestly, I love the show as much as the movie at this point. I revisit it a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know. They did a really good job on it.
Yeah. Did you watch the new season of Kids in the Hall?
I did. That was good too.
It's really good. And how they like kind of stitched it together, same way. It's just, you feel like they really love the subject and they want to do the best that they can do by it. And it's just, it ties right back into the original. You can watch the movie, Wet Hot American Summer, and then the series back to back. And it's like this, time has passed, but it connects so fluidly. I just love
what
it.
I usually do now.
Yeah.
You definitely see the big jump in, like, the movie was shot on film and the show was digital, and you can definitely see that.
Right.
But outside of that, the tone and everything is just perfect.
Yeah, I agree. Janine tells Ken Marino to take the kids on the river that day, and then Bradley Cooper and Amy Poehler announce that they're doing Godspell, which is pretty amazing. And then we get morning activities: dance, guitar, science, hiking, but they all got little handheld devices, even though it's 1981. Is it difficult to navigate phones and things at camp?
Kids are not allowed to have phones at camp.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. When we find out that, like, usually a couple parents sneak in phones in their luggage, they try to be sneaky, and we usually find them by day 2, and the kids just cannot have phones.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. When I was a kid, that wasn't a thing. Phones were attached to walls. And so,
The older kids always go through like a little withdrawal, but by day 4, they're good.
Okay. Molly Shannon is teaching art and crafts.
Today we're going to use some crayons to make some decorations for the talent show. Right there.
Is that your wedding ring, Gail?
No. I mean, yes, actually, yes, it is. It was, actually. It was. It used to be. I mean, legally. So twisted, his lawyer won't even call me now.
Where are the crayons?
The crayons are... The crayon is right there.
We could draw with the markers.
Listen, Valerie, I need you to be helpful here, okay? I do not need you to undermine me, okay?
But there's only one crayon left, and it's brown. There are literally hundreds of colored markers.
Back at the van, Beth kisses Ken, and so Ken's like, I'm gonna be back tonight, because he wants to hook up with her.
Hey. Going on your trip?
Yep.
Sucks dick we never really got to know each other, you know?
Yeah.
You gotta stick a gun, Victor.
Thought you'd never ask. Abby.
What?
My trip. It doesn't come back until tomorrow.
Don't go.
I can't because Beth told me.
Let's go.
I'll be back tonight. Tonight.
Michael tells our radio guy voiceover Artie that he needs to take a shower. Is the showering thing a mandatory thing at camp?
The kids, oh my God. Yeah, the kids have to shower
Okay.
every day.
Okay.
Crazy. Some of the cabins actually have showers in the cabins now. I was a camper at this camp before I was a counselor. And back in that day, there was a bathhouse and everybody had to walk to it.
Right.
But now we have bathrooms in the camp. It's gotten all upgraded in the cabin.
Next is my favorite scene between the counselors. It's the scene where they're on the porch and they're making plans to meet up in 10 years, and Michael Ian Black says he has something that he's already moved twice. It's like the funniest joke.
You guys, I'm really gonna miss this place.
Me too.
Hey, let's all promise that in 10 years from today, we'll meet again, and we'll see what kind of people we've blossomed into.
Yeah.
What time you want to meet?
You mean 10 years from now?
Yeah.
Let's meet in the morning so we can make a day of it.
Okay, so what is it? Is it like 9 or 9:30?
Well, let's say 9. That way we can be here by 9:30.
Well, no, why don't we say 9:30 and then make it your beeswax to be here at 9:30? I mean, we're all going to be in our late 20s by then. I just don't see any reason why we can't be places on time.
Okay, then. Settled. 9:30 it is. All agreed?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Great.
Because I have something at 11.
You just got like a trapper keeper full of appointments, right?
No, I have something at 11 that I can't change again because I already moved it twice.
David Hyde Pierce notices something in the sky, but we don't know quite what. One of the big jokes is that this all takes place in one day.
Yes.
What is an actual day like for you as a counselor? What time are you up? What time are you... I guess you're not really off because you're sleeping there too.
Right. So breakfast at 8, and then let's see, there's 3 activity blocks. So it's like breakfast, activity block of, I'll get into that, and then lunch,
Yeah.
then 2 more activities, then dinner, and then the whole camp usually does something together, whether it's a movie night or a big capture the flag. Well, actually, we don't do capture the flag anymore. That got banned last year.
Oh,
Yeah, kids got a kid would break their leg every single year, so they got rid of it this year, which was sad. But and yeah, so the different activities, there's archery, waterfront time, there's challenge courses, which are like little things set up through the camp that cabins can do together. There's ropes courses, which they make a joke about in the movie, that they left the kids in a ropes course
yeah.
their day.
Yeah. She's like, I meant to tell you that yesterday.
That's really funny. So we have a few of those. There's a pretty strict schedule. On Wednesdays, we have Water Wednesday, where we spend the whole day at the waterfront. And then Fridays are movie nights. That's about it.
And what's an example of a movie for movie night?
This year, I pushed really hard for Scooby-Doo 2, and I got it.
Nice.
But there's usually like one or two Pixars. We've done Cars. They've gotten more kiddie as of late. Like I remember back in the day, it'd be like The Sandlot or something where kids could dip and maybe say damn now and then.
Yeah.
And now it's generally like G,
right?
Not PG. Kids have gotten softer. I always push for 3 movies. Most people only make it through 2 because we start at like 9 or 10. It's fun. It's very fun. We have like one of those little blow up projectors. We put it in the pavilion, and all the counselors are in the hammocks around the kids to make sure they don't sneak off.
Right.
It's good.
That's interesting. We next get Molly Shannon as Gail being counseled by a kid. I love their relationship in the movie. It's very funny.
Gail, you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm just that my husband, Ron, you know. No, he's my ex-husband. I guess I have to get used to that. To get used to saying ex. He's my ex-husband. You know, it's just that I thought, like, when Jonas and I separated, I thought that everything was lost. And then I met Ron, and it just seemed like everything was gonna work out, you know?
Gail, keep going. We're with you.
It's too records. Like, I don't even know where the plans are.
I know. Gail, listen to me. Ron's who he is. And you can't change that.
I know.
Okay? Gail, listen to me. Look at me. Gail, look at me. Gail, look at me. I want you to say, okay. I want you to say, okay. Okay, good.
We don't really know where these counselors began, and we don't know where you began, but you hinted that you were a kid going to camp, I guess. I was like looking for the name because there's counselors, but how many years did you go to the camp?
I was a camper for 5 years.
Okay.
Was not there for 2 years, and then I've been a counselor for this was year 8.
That's incredible.
So which feels so I relate to Coop in that way because he often talks about how he was a camper and he's been there forever and he is a counselor now.
Yeah, that's wonderful. In the next scene, Janine gives the counselors duties and says the day ends with a giant talent show. Do you have a talent show at your camp?
There was a talent show. There wasn't one last year because none of the kids wanted to do it.
Yeah.
But this year there was one and it was pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah, there was a song. There was one kid who went up who had nothing to do and he just made everybody watch him do nothing for 40 seconds. Kid solved the Rubik's Cube in 2.5 minutes.
Whoa.
Which was the highlight. And yeah, just a bunch of talent show stuff. And then there was a huge thunderstorm. So the kids had to stay inside. And storms are my favorite part of camp. Because if you're outside, you have to put all the kids underneath the pavilion and you have to protect them. And it's crazy. And it feels like a movie. And lightning happens every 5 seconds. And I didn't know that could happen in real life because you watch a movie and there's just lightning out the window constantly.
Right.
You say that works, but it is sometimes, it turns out.
Crazy. We get introduced to Steve, who talks like a robot and runs away.
Right.
At the lake, Lindsay, played by Elizabeth Banks, approaches Paul, who is writing in his journal, one of my favorite jokes of all time, because he just calls it a journal, not a journal, and it's never explained. It's just...
so dumb.
It's so dumb. I love it. Kid drowns, so Paul Rudd ditches his swimming buddy on the road.
That was my favorite joke the first time I watched it.
Yeah.
He just kept killing kids.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And I love it.
It's so good. Janine needs to learn about astrophysics, so a trip is planned into town, and then there's this awesome montage of them smoking weed and then doing heroin and robbing people. It's pretty hilarious. And then they roll back into camp, and they're like, it's great anytime you can get away, even for an hour. And it's like, I love it so much. So you do get to leave camp as a counselor?
I mean, usually with kids,
Okay.
we have a field trip. We take 8 kids to a Mayfield ice cream factory once a year. So there's stuff like that. But generally,
No.
because I think we're understaffed. I don't know that for a fact. But sure feels like it a little bit. Someone has to be with the kids all the time. I know whenever all the kids go home, we all go to Sonic together every year. And that's our version of getting high on heroin.
Right, that works.
And that's always very fun because we just talk shit the whole time.
Yeah.
There's some really awful kids.
Yeah.
It's nice to talk.
I mean, anytime. I used to work at a behavioral program, and you need that decompressing time, at the end of the day or the end of the year or whatever, to talk with other people about just the challenges that you can have, because it can be really hard.
It can be.
Yeah. Next, Gene's talking to Gary, played by J.D. Miles, while he peels carrots, and we're introduced to a very special can of vegetables. This is one of the examples that this movie just has no limits on what it's going to do. It's pretty amazing.
Cooking slop for the grunts and ham was easier than this.
We had no place being over there. It was a war we couldn't win, Gene.
Yeah? Well, I'm gonna go smear some mud on my ass.
What?
I said I hear my buds in class. I gotta go and call my bud, see how his grades are. I gotta go. Go away! Leave me alone!
Gene, now hold on. Look, I don't care what you do in your private time, but don't lie about it. I mean, you clearly said smear mud on my ass. And I'll tell you something. If you want to smear mud on your ass, smear mud on your ass. Just be honest about it. Look, Gene, I've never told anyone this before, but I can suck my own dick. And I do it a lot. There, I said it. I was honest. And you know what, Gene? Being honest makes you feel better.
Ken leaves the rafters and crashes the van. Neil, played by Joe Latrulio, says he needs Victor, so he leaves all the kids in the raft in the rapids. He steals a motorcycle, and we get the best chase scene of all time, I'm guessing. It's really amazing, of Ken Marino running and Joe Latrulio on a motorcycle. Have you seen the deleted scenes from this?
Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah, the part where David Wayne comes out and Carrie Kinney and their whole interaction about money, it's so good. It's so funny.
Like, we breezed over it, but I think the hardest laugh I get nowadays to watch it is when Victor crashes into the tree.
Yeah.
Just him acting like it comes out of nowhere when it's just a tree in front of him. I don't know, it cracks me up still.
Yeah.
And it leads to the Abby bit, which I think, until she starts making out the other cook, is really sweet.
Yeah.
When he comes to her and she stops.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I said Beth earlier. I meant Abby. Abby and Ken Marino's character, who kiss and then sets in motion the whole thing at the rapids. I was getting Beth, Katie, and Abby's name wrong so many times in my notes because I was like trying to. Sometimes I'm like focused on the actors' names, and so then when I was going back through, I'm like, no.
Especially here when they're all famous.
Right. And at the time, when I first saw it, I knew who Janine Garofalo was, but a lot of the cast I wasn't aware of who they were. Definitely not Bradley Cooper. Next, the guys spy the girls about to skinny dip, and Michael Ian Black says, I'll see you guys later. And we see him enter a shed with Bradley Cooper, and they just get it on. It's pretty amazing, especially in 2001.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved this. It made me so nervous because it was 2001 when I saw it. And then there's a scene later where the two other guy counselors see them get married. And then they're like, first of all, they use a slur twice. And then they're like, we got to get him. And I was like, it's just so nervous. And then where the movie goes was such a delight. But they got me. They tricked me for sure.
Good. And that was kind of the joke for a while, because I know late 90s was all gay panic. Like,
yeah.
Oh, I kissed a guy in American Pie 2 or whatever. And but then for a while there, it was just like the joke would be two straight people having sex. It's usually not as sweet as it is in Wet Hot American Summer.
No, it's very,
that was a
very
treat
sweet.
for a while. American Dad still does it. They'll just all have sex.
A big deal in camp movies is pitting camps against each other, so we get this little scene here. Does your camp have a rival camp?
We used to not get along with the Boy Scouts who were across the lake. But that was when I was a camper. They don't even go there anymore. So now there's just nobody.
No.
It's kind of sad.
No turf wars.
We get a toy duck every year. They would always steal it.
Oh, those Boy Scouts. This is the part I just talked about. The dudes notice McKinley in the woods, so they follow and see McKinley and Ben getting married in a very sweet little ceremony. It's quite lovely. Next, we get Capture the Flag, community games like you were talking about earlier, and games are nice. So, Eric, it's time to play a game. Are you ready to play? Real camp activity or camp moment in a movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's 10 examples. No pressure. You've already won just from being here.
Oh, good.
Number 1, Twinkies on your pizza. Is that a camp thing or something in a camp movie?
Twinkies on your pizza?
Yeah.
Oh, God. It's from a movie?
Yeah. It's from Heavyweights. Kenan Thompson says...
It is from Heavyweights. Oh,
yeah.
my God. Okay.
Kenan Thompson says, don't put Twinkies on your pizza.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Number 2, Junkyard Wars.
Movie?
Close. It's an activity, according to a website I went to, where kids use junk to make things like catapults.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Sounds dangerous.
It does sound dangerous. I don't like it. But...
Well, they're not doing it at your camp then.
No, they're not.
Number 3, Arrowhead Through the Bacon. Is that a camp activity or a camp moment in a movie?
Arrowhead Through the Bacon?
Yeah.
I can't think of a movie that's into a camp activity.
That's a good guess. It's actually
Damn.
how Kevin Bacon dies in Friday the 13th. He gets an arrowhead through his neck.
Stupid. You tricked me.
Yeah.
I feel like Barrymore.
Number 4, Human Foosball.
Camp activity.
Camp activity, that's right. Counselors tape off little squares where the kids have to stand in a row, and they can't move out of those squares. It's not as fun as I was picturing it, but there you go.
We didn't do that at camp, but I think I've seen that on lists of things to do before.
Yeah. Number 5, Boxing Meathead. Is that a camp activity or a camp moment in a movie?
That's not the climax to Meatballs 2, is it?
It sure is. Meathead is an alien in Meatballs 2, and it boxes.
That's the best Meatballs by a lot.
Yeah.
I feel very strongly about that.
That's awesome. I love that you've seen it. A lot of people didn't go past Meatballs 1.
No, 2's way better than 1.
I agree. Number 6, Bird Feeders.
Just in general?
Yeah, it's a camp activity or a camp moment in a movie.
Sure, kids have made bird feeders at camp.
Yeah.
I'll say camp activity.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
There's only so much I could find online.
For a fact.
Number 7, Bathroom Beehive. Is that a camp activity?
Oh, that's sleepaway camp.
Yeah, sleepaway camp. I love this. Number 8, Indoor Games.
I mean, that's a camp activity.
That's a camp activity. I mean, like I said, there was only so many lists I could find, and I wanted something on the list that I enjoy, which would be an indoor game. Number 9, Stop the Gold Digger. Is that a camp activity or a camp moment in a movie?
I mean, that sounds like a fun game to play, but then I'm also like, I don't know. Is it from summer camp with Linnea Quigley? That was a movie.
That's a great guess. It is from a movie. The Olsen twins try to stop Steve Guttenberg from marrying a gold digger in It Takes Two.
I've never seen It Takes Two, and I really need to,
Yeah.
because I did not know Steve Guttenberg was in it, and that's a sell for me.
Yeah. Yes, I guess I recommend it. Number 10, Snake Infested Swamp. Is that something from a camp movie or a camp activity?
Well, that's not a camp activity.
You're right.
From a movie.
Any guess on which camp movie?
I'm trying to think.
You've known a lot of them. I'm shocked.
I love camp movies, and it's going to piss me off if I don't know it.
You want a hint?
Hint would be great.
Okay, Shelley Long. You might not have seen it. I saw it in the theater.
Oh, wait. Troop Beverly Hills.
Yes. Yeah, you got it.
Oh, my God. Yep, it's been a minute. But, yes.
Yeah, it's what Troop Beverly Hills gets stuck in the film Troop Beverly Hills starring Shelley Long and Craig T. Nelson. Great job.
I would have been mad if I had.
Oh, you got it. You got it. And you won, so congratulations.
Oh, thank God. Mad I missed the Friday the 13th one. I was unaware there'd be tricks.
That arrowhead through the bacon? I mean...
I thought real bacon!
Oh, sure. Also, a lot of these could be a game. I mean, all the stuff from movies, it's like, oh, okay, we're gonna go play Bathroom Beehive. I mean, that one sounds a little dodgy, but...
Yeah. Well, since it came up, I will say I believe the first Sleepaway Camp is the most accurate representation of a camp on film.
Oh, that's good to know.
Just a little aside from me. It just because all the kids have activities.
Yep.
They're generally all with their counselor unless they're being watched. It's very structured, and usually camp movies lack the structure that most definitely exists in all.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's films like Camp Nowhere and things like that, where just like kids aren't supervised, they're just wandering through the woods in groups. Like,
that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's like Lord of the Flies or something.
Even like Friday the 13th Part 6, only 5 people work at that camp.
Right.
No.
That's a great point. Back in the movie, Weird Robot Talking Guy is put on the list for the talent show, and Henry and Beth bond some more. It's now 2:32, and Paul loses a kid water skiing and ditches another kid on the road, so we get that reoccurring... I laughed really hard in the theater when he threw the second kid in the same spot. It's great. We next get a scene that I love so much, and it's so hard not to quote all these lines and things, but it's when Coop and Katie, right, swap jackets.
Oh yeah, here's my flannel.
It's so good, because he's like, it's my favorite flannel, so I'm going to need it back. And she's like, right now? And he's like, yeah. And then he takes his jacket back. I love it so much. The guys that saw McKinley and Ben get married say, hey, this is for you, and this is the part I was nervous about. But they present them with the chaise lounge, which is so sweet.
Yeah, very nice.
Gene talks to the can, played by John Benjamin, and the can says, being honest makes you feel better, which is kind of a counseling moment. So I was just curious, how much counseling does a camp counselor do? Is there relationship advice? Are you emotional support for kids that are maybe more fragile than others? What is the depth?
Completely depends on the kids or what cabin you get. This year I had high school, which is, you want high school boys. They're the best. They're the most behaved. And then you can just kind of stay up late talking about whatever. Middle school boys are the worst.
Yep.
They're just monsters, and they are very mean, and you maybe bond with one of, especially if you have a full cabin. If you only have like 3 kids, then that's easy peasy. You can deal with 3 kids, whatever, but when you have 8 and they're just all trying to get your goat, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And there's not too much bonding. And then and at that point, you're just looking forward to the times you can be with the other counselors and you do ditch the kids.
Right.
Hard to do, but it happens.
Back in the movie, Katie says she can't be with Coop, so he pours his heart out, but it falls on deaf ears. Then Gene makes a proclamation to the kids. It's another brilliant scene, and then he mounts a fridge, and he humps it as he's steered off screen. It is... When you talk about, like, commitment from an actor, I don't think there's someone who's commit more to a role than he does to Gene. Christopher Maloney in this, he has to talk to a talking can of vegetables, he has to hump a fridge, he has to talk about fondling sweaters. I mean, it's really funny, but played very, very serious.
He's very good in it. I don't even know if I could support my own weight holding on to the fridge.
That's a good point.
He did a good job.
Now the counselors wash Artie. I'm imagining you can't wash the children.
No.
Yeah.
No.
David Hyde Pierce tells Seth that a satellite is approaching the camp, and it could kill everybody. Coop is sad, and Gene tells him to look inward, and an amazing montage ensues where they're like training, and this music is playing. I could live in this Feel the Fire sequence.
Yeah.
That's very endearing. I love the slow motion running and dancing, and they're doing like karate moves and stuff. It's great. Next, the insanity of Victor comes back to camp, and then they have to search for Victor. It's like almost like a horror movie for this beat, as they're going to the nurse and they see blood, and it's so crazy. Victor just needs a break, and so do we, so we'll be right back. Feeding. Everyone's got to do it, even vampires. But if you aren't a vampire, or a baby vampire, then sometimes eating can become so repetitive and boring. Which is where Marshall's Hot Sauce comes in. Liven up any meal with those small batch sauces made from only the freshest ingredients. From the sweet, mild heat of smoked habanero barbecue to the addictive serrano ginger lemongrass, or even my two personal favorites, habanero carrot curry and bird's eye basil. In fact, Marshall's Hot Sauce even has a new line of seasonings, including an incredible barbecue rub, a chicken marinade, and even a volcano sparkle that a vampire could eat. The best part is that you can enter VHS Podcast at checkout for 20% off. That's right, liven up those meals and wake up those undead taste buds at marshallshotsauce.com. That's Marshall's, Haute sauce.com. And enter VHS Podcast for 20% off. And now, back to the show. And we're back, and the talent show has begun. I already asked you about the talent show, but is that a common thing or a rarity?
Once every summer.
Oh, every summer?
Except last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, once every summer.
Is it whoever wants to participate, or is there a limit?
We push for every cabin, because usually it's just hard getting the kids to do it.
Sure.
Because nobody wants to. So generally we try to be, every cabin has to do a thing, and kids can do their own thing in addition. They try to get everybody, because you got to get those pictures.
Right. And how does that work? Do you have to text them to the parents, or what is?
There's a camp Facebook page.
Okay.
And they go post 100 pictures a day, and the parents will tag their kids.
Oh, okay. All right. Judah Friedlander shows up in the movie as Ron. This was the first time I ever saw Judah Friedlander. He comes back for Molly/Gail. It's a wonderful scene where she really takes a stance against Ron, and everyone's proud of her. This film has a lot of very positive messages for being such a ridiculous comedy.
I think it's a very sweet movie. A big reason why it works, even there's like some mean-spirited jokes, but it's very sweet and nostalgic and vibe.
I agree. It feels good. Like, to go back and rewatch it, I was like, some things don't age well, and I feel like aside from a couple brief moments, it's pretty good. Cool Coop enters to tell her he's leaving and gives her his flannel in a box, which is a great reveal where she pulls this whole flannel out of a tiny box that's sitting on a bench. Nerd Steve with the robot voice, he does his act, which I'm guessing is weather. It's very, very...
I've actually never completely understood it.
No.
But I love it a lot.
Same. The satellite doesn't crush everyone. Coop and Katie kiss. All the kids are crying and saying goodbye. What's the emotional breadth of the last day of camp?
Oh, it's a lot.
Are kids excited just to go home, or?
It's half and half. Well, I think 3/4 of the kids are very excited to go home, especially now that they're all addicted to cell phones.
Yeah.
Because it used to be less. But then a fourth of them get sad. And I get so sad last day of camp. I can't handle it.
Yeah.
Handle it well at all. I've been there for 13 years, so I get sad whenever I have to leave.
Yeah.
And I always, every year now, I think it's my last year. And then they always need a guy counselor. And I'm free for some of it, at least. And I keep coming back.
That's great.
But I always think it's the end. So it's just a lot of time.
Yeah. Well, when you're in service of something like kids, it can be hard to leave. Like when I left my job, it felt like I was turning my back on that job that was in service of children. So it can be weird to say, have a summer where you're not at camp, I bet.
It's a lot. And it's weird now too, because I'm 26 and most of the counselors are like 20, 21. Yeah, they just keep not getting enough guys signing up. So I'm there, but I'm like an older watching over everybody guy. And it's, I don't know. It's weird. It's an interesting thing.
Yeah. You're the elder.
Yeah.
David Hyde Pierce wins an award and he hands it off to someone off screen. It's just a split second, but my God.
That's a great gag.
It gets me every time. It's so simple. I think somewhere in this part is where we get the fourth time they use the ceramics breaking sound.
When I showed my sister that first day, the one part where she laughed really, 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 really hard is when they're talking to Janine about their wedding. And she says, I hope you don't have jumbo shrimp because I'm allergic to oxymorons.
Yeah.
And my sister, for whatever reason, thinks it's the funniest joke ever.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, she's also carrying a baby. David Hyde Pierce alludes to the fact that they've been trying, even though it's still the first day. I love it so much. And then Katie explains to Coop that it's not going to work. We're not going to get a happy ending for Coop, which I think is also beautiful in a way.
I think it's the funny diversion. When they do it again in the second season of the show, it actually breaks my heart a lot. But in the movie, it's very funny.
Yeah, I agree. And then that's the end of the film. Do you have any final thoughts for Wet Hot American Summer?
I love it. It's a perfect movie. I've certainly seen it. It's in my top 5 like most watched movies for sure.
Awesome.
I watched it a lot, and now I watch the TV show a lot as well. I don't know. It's just the best. It's so funny. Everybody's so good. I really like how it looks. I like that it's so nostalgic. You can tell David Wayne or Michael Showalter or somebody went to camp.
Yeah.
All very specific and nostalgic. And I like that it's specifically like a Jewish camp. I think that brings a lot of flavor. Yeah, I don't know. I love it. It's perfect.
I never put that together. It's a Jewish camp.
Oh, yeah. Well, and they bring it up more in the show because when they go to Camp Tiger Claw, they're like, oh, Katie, are you done hanging out with those sunburnt Jews across the lake? And it's like, oh, damn.
Yeah.
And there's like the bit in this movie where Janine Garofalo is just listing off a bunch of Jewish sounding names when she does the roll call for campers. She's like Silverstein.
Yeah.
Kleinenberg. And it's just like,
wow, that's so funny. I've seen this so many times and I never put any of that together.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, there you go. This brings us to final questions. These are questions that are just about yourself. I know. What is a good day like for you as a camp counselor? Also, how long is camp?
Camp, 2 months.
2 months?
But there's different smaller sections. Like there's like 2-week camps throughout the months. But a bunch of kids come back like over and over for all the different camps. So you have some kids come and go, and then you have a bunch of kids who are there for a lot of it. And it's actually, yeah, it's kind of a funky setup. But a good day, movie night's my favorite because I like movies.
Yeah.
And I can't help it. There's usually like fun water activities during the day part of that day too, so I like it. But a good day, I like whenever a kid who's all pissy and doesn't want to do something has a really good time doing it after you're pushy about it. We take the kids skiing or doing something else. And half the younger kids don't want to do it. They're like, I don't know how to do it, so I'm scared and I don't want to. And then when they finally get up and they're doing all right, they're like super excited about it. You take a picture of it. It's like a nice little fulfilling moment.
Yeah.
I guess the same thing happens at talent show. There was the Rubik's Cube kid.
Mm-hmm.
He got bullied for a bunch of camp. But then when he solved that Rubik's Cube in 2.5 minutes, like everybody cheered and it was super nice. And he's probably going to remember the whole experience better because of it.
Right.
And so stuff like that is cool. So it's mostly moments. There's rarely like a full day that's just good. But it's mostly little bits like that.
Mm-hmm. And what's a bad day like?
Bad day. Ooh, I've had a few bad days. I mean, sometimes kids just don't want to do anything and they're mean.
Yeah.
They're mean to other kids and you gotta tell them, yeah, no, it's the middle schoolers. They're the worst people in the world. I feel like if you're, I had the only good boys cabin this year. My boys were so good and well behaved. And then all the other guys had just a nightmare time.
Oh no.
And just middle school boys suck. They're so mean.
Yeah. Yeah. The middle school age group is just brutal.
Yeah, they're rough because they haven't learned empathy yet.
Yeah.
They're about to, but they're not there yet. And they want to be more like high schoolers, and they think high schoolers are meaner than they are.
Yeah, that makes sense. I skipped over a part where in the film, Coop is talking to, I forget her character's name, but the blonde lady from SNL whose name I forgot earlier.
Poehler.
Amy Poehler, yeah. What's her character's name?
Oh God, I was hoping you wouldn't ask
that.
that.
Okay, good. I'll go back. There's the scene where Michael Showalter and Amy Poehler are walking and they're talking about where they're going to eat. And he's like, where do you think we should eat? And so they decide to eat at the mess hall because that's the only option. It's a great joke. But what's the food like at camp? Like, that's what you have to eat, right? Or can you bring snacks, or how does that work?
Ooh, actually, so every counselor gets an hour break every day during some activity. And then it's every guy counselor is partnered with a girl counselor. You have like a little family group. And so if I was on break, the girl counselor would be watching all the kids.
Okay.
And so there's a staff lodge where you can go in it and there's snacks that the kids can't have. There's lots of chips, lots of soda. It's very fun.
Okay.
Yeah, that's always a highlight. And if someone else is on break, sometimes I show them a movie. I usually show somebody Friday the 13th every year. The food itself, it can be hit or miss depending on the day. I hate grits. So like if they ever do grits, I'll just be pissy all day because I don't like them. Sometimes they do like a fettuccine with chicken. That's probably my favorite. Very good. They do a good job. Corn dogs and stuff like that. It's just like camp foods mostly. And I only drink coffee at camp. I don't like the taste. I've never been a coffee guy. But at camp, I need it.
Yeah.
I drink coffee when I am at camp. And tea, because it's in the South. So we have nice sweet tea.
The kids probably love sweet tea. Are they allowed sweet tea as well?
A bunch of Tennessee kids.
Yeah.
And they have the sweet tea.
Any advice for someone who maybe is interested in being a camp counselor?
It can be hard. So like just make sure it's something you really, really want to do before you do it. Make sure you're good with kids beforehand too.
That's a good one.
Because like there's some counselors and they're like, oh, I don't like kids. And they come in and they aren't happy because they're with kids so much. Or they talk to them. Like we had a girl had to be like, go this year because she talked to her elementary schoolers. Like they weren't elementary schoolers.
Oh dear.
And so you just need to know your limits and your just how to be when you're around kids. Because they can be like little people, but then sometimes you have to remember that they're kids and you got to treat them with kids and you have to be an authority figure, which is tricky.
Yeah.
When you're not usually an authority figure in the rest of your day-to-day life.
That's a great point.
Yeah, like I've had a big boy voice come out that I didn't know
Yeah.
I had when the kids didn't listen to me. Like I turned to my dad for a second. It's super weird.
Yeah.
Because I didn't happen.
It happens as a parent. I didn't think I had that either. And then you have a kid, and then you say all the things that you were annoyed that your parents say. And you're like, oh, God, okay, I get it. I see.
It's the not listening to you that brings it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate it. I didn't know I hated it so much. But
Well, it's true. Like, and the weirdest thing is it's 100 times more intense when it's your own child. Because I would be with like an escalated kid for a whole day where they're just violent and all this stuff. And I'd be cool, no problem, keeping the kids safe, no worries. But my own kid putting a shoe on, taking 15 minutes, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't stand this. I need counseling. This brings us to the last question, and it's my favorite question. Eric, what are your dreams like?
my dreams, like my goals or my actual dreams?
No, like sleepy time.
Like sleepy time. If it's a night where I've taken melatonin, they're the most horrific nightmares you could ever.
Oh, no.
Which can be cool because I'm trying to write and direct horror movies. So I can like, but yeah, those melatonin dreams are intense. Lots of people trying to kill me and I got a nail gun in their face, but it keeps not killing them. They keep coming, even though they're just more and more nails in their face. Stuff like that. Not good. Or they're really throwbacky. Like, oh, I'm in middle school again. Not even a weird caveat. It's just like a day there. Which is interesting. A lot of nightmares usually. Or I just don't remember my dreams most nights. But when I do, nightmares happen pretty often. And I don't mind. Like, I do like a good nightmare.
That's great. You mentioned directing, writing horror movies. You're on the podcast as a camp counselor because you mentioned that on Twitter. But you do work in the field of entertainment. Is there anywhere that people can find your work or see something that you've done?
I have a movie on Tubi right now.
There you go.
Need to see it. No, it's fine. The Last Thanksgiving is a slasher movie on Tubi. Extremely low, but there was barely a budget. But there's some fun moments in there.
When did you do that?
We filmed it 4 years ago and it came out 2 years ago.
Cool.
That was fun. And I'm currently trying to make a new feature, which is more fun because it's like we're shooting on film and it's beautiful. I don't know.
Whoa.
3 years of camp, I've made a camp movie with the children.
Fun.
And those are all on YouTube under, I think it's Moss Man 2 and Moss Man 3. It's like there's a moss monster and he kills the kids.
Oh, great.
And the third one was just too ambitious. Like we did that one this summer. These movies are usually like 6 minutes or something. And that one on accident came out to be like 28 minutes.
Whoa.
It's so long and it's tightly edited.
Yeah.
There's 40 scenes in it for no reason. Well, it's because they wanted every kid in it. And there's fucking 60 kids.
Yeah.
And half of them get a death scene. And there's arcs that like some of them have. A little girl gets killed at the beginning and then she's reunited with her friend 25 minutes later, but you forgot they existed. It's weird. But Moss Man 3 is probably my magnum opus.
Okay, I love it. Moss Man 3.
Moss Man versus Bat Thing.
Okay. That sounds
too much. That one,
yeah, Bat Thing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
that's on YouTube for anybody who wants to see what my camp is like, right?
Yes.
Camp. All these kids who some of them like obviously most of them are terrible actors.
Sure.
And making it up as we go, so doubly bad. But every now and then, like, a little girl would just sell the shit out of it. It was kind of dope.
That's excellent. Well, Eric, thank you so much for talking with me about Wet Hot American Summer and sharing your experiences as a camp counselor.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So once again, on Twitter, Erick Lorinc, Lorinc,
Mm-hmm.
Erick. People, don't leave that K off there.
True.
Yeah. And as always, I'm Dirk Marshall, and this has been VH.